Welcome to the Aligned Powerhouse, the podcast for executive women who are done leading from burnout and ready to rise from alignment. I'm your host, Dr. Brittany McGeehan, licensed psychologist, high performance and mindset coach, and guide for high achieving women who are ready to lead, live, and love without abandoning themselves. Here, we unpack the nervous system truths, mindset shifts, and emotional patterns that drive your leadership so you can build power from the inside out. Let's get into it. All right. Hello, guys. Today, I'm so excited. We are talking about one thing that if you know me, you know I love me some ChatGPT. Okay. So today we are getting into like nitty gritty, like toward the end of today's episode, I'm going to be talking you through how I have trained my own ChatGPT to build and leverage having an additional support in building emotional intimacy for high performing relationships and also just for women who are high performing in general, right? One thing that we talk a ton about in this podcast is that these are the women who are prone to caring more in their relationships because they move very quickly and they do things very well, right? So today we are talking about how does AI actually influence emotional intimacy, because there's a lot of people just have a lot of opinions about AI right now, right? We are in the AI boom, and I think half the world is saying it's cutting off human connection and relationship, and the other half is saying it's making them more effective. I tend to take a middle ground. Is that true? I think it depends. This is my very therapist-y answer. It depends. It depends how you're using it, where it's developmentally appropriate, and what is the goal within which using it, right? I believe that there is a really cool opportunity here to bring in an additional support to help support women and couples who are constantly getting in the same patterns over and over and over again and have a really hard time moving forward, right? 9 times out of 10, when we are having a disagreement or an argument, the issue is that we're dysregulated and we feel misunderstood and we have childhood histories that are playing into the issue versus what we think we are arguing about or what we think we are having a misunderstanding about. This happens in the boardroom too, but that's a different episode, right? But as I talk with these women, especially those who are like literally sitting in C-suite, there's just so many dynamics that are at play that the thing we think we're talking and arguing about is never the thing we're actually addressing. So first and foremost, I want to acknowledge this cultural fear that AI has the opportunity to replace connection. It has the opportunity to dull our humanity or somehow like weaken our relationships. This is where I want to, like coming from a psychologist, developmentally, you're not wrong, but it depends when and where and how you're using it. So when children are using AI as a replacement for therapy because they are socially anxious, this is a tremendous issue. There was a study that was done that talked about how kids are turning to ChatGPT rather than wanting to talk to an actual therapist because it felt more comfortable to them, right? But the reality is that AI is fantastic if you have the ability to use critical thought and if you know how to implement the skills that it's giving you. But you got to be able to use some discernment here, guys. So when we're handing a tool like this to children, yes, it is an issue because the job of a child is to play, learn who they are, explore their identity. You can't do that if you have a robot in your face that's making everything really, really easy. I've had this conversation over and over again. How do you create and foster this ability to have abstract and critical thought in today's society, in our school systems, and with this implementation of AI? So I want to really distinguish this, right? Because what I'm addressing and talking about and positioning here is a tool to give grown adults who are doing the work outside of whatever, right? So they have outside support systems. I am positing that AI can have an additional lens and support here that can help real time in a way that, you can't pick up the phone and talk to a therapist at any time. You can't pick up the phone and talk to a coach. I say that, but I have a few of my coaching clients on Marco Polo for that reason. But I'm not available 24/7 and they know that. Now I'm going to get back to you in a timely manner, right? But it is very helpful to have someone to just give you a little bit of a reframe whenever you need that, okay? So these tools do not have to replace connection. but they do have the ability to amplify what is already happening in your nervous system by providing some clarity and really helping you to hone into what are your goals that you have in this specific experience. Okay. So again, my position is that AI is not a threat to intimacy if it is used correctly. If it is used correctly, I believe it is one of the most powerful relationship tools that we have ever had access to. And that is a hill that I will die on. I think we all need critical thought. We all need to use discernment in everything. But that is also true of therapy. That is also true of screens. That is true of body work. Like, we're just afraid of it because it's new. Okay. So this is not about really like robots giving relationship advice. This is really about teaching you, my listener, how to use this very powerful tool that you have at your fingertips. But I want you to train. So really we're talking about ChatGPT, okay? So long language models is the thing that we're addressing here. But how do we hone this tool to be able to have more clarity, regulation, and make it easier to then come back into a space with a regulated nervous system with this person that you care for, and that the end goal is to work through our issues and stay in relationship with, okay? So let's really talk about the actual fear of using AI, okay? Because this is, my clients tend to sit in two camps, okay? Now, the majority of my audience, I will say, is pro AI, but not always sure how and like what boundaries they should have in place. But there's a small subset of my listeners who are saying that they are afraid to introduce AI into their relationship. So we're using it in business, we're using it to optimize and outsource, but we're having a little bit of issues in terms of like, what does this look like in the home? What does this look like specifically in my relationship? You know, I think it can help in running family systems. That's a whole, like, if y'all are interested in that podcast, y'all just let me know. Hit reply, like whatever, come tell me over on Instagram, because I'm not going to talk about that today, but I want to know if you're interested in it. But really what I'm talking about is how do you use it and leverage it specific in relationships? Because the issue that I found with the women who are a little bit hesitant is like, it's not unique to AI, right? The issue is they believe I shouldn't need help. I shouldn't need a robot. Or I don't trust it to be accurate or correct, right? Keep in mind, one of my prerequisites is you have to be able to use critical thought, because you have to be able to have critical thought with a therapist, with a coach. If I had $1 every time I have told a client, like, hey, I want you to know who you're in the room with. Some of my stuff might be coming into the room right now. So I want you to listen to your body, listen to your nervous system and the signals, because they're either going to relax when I say this or you're going to tense up. And let's help you make meaning of what that is, right? Because if it's I want you to have some indication there's an internal boundary that's getting bumped up against. Guys, that's not unique to AI. That is not a reason to not use this, unless you just don't want to, right? Then like, whatever. But if you are interested, of course, you might be told something that you're like, I don't think that's true, right? I use AI to come up with outlines for a lot of my content, right? And I like, half of my process is going in and being like, I don't like that, I'm gonna change it, right? This, like, you are the boss of your whole entire life. I think autonomy is a beautiful thing. It is something I push for with my clients, something I want to see, I expect to see in results as we're doing this work, is being able to discern, this is true for me and that is true for you. In this case, this is true for me and that's true for this little robot thing, right? So really, truly at its core, the fear here is about receiving support. The fear might actually be, oh gosh, what if my little, like, I call my little ChatGPT, her name is Gigi. What if Gigi gives me the skills I need to then turn around and go and actually talk to my partner and be honest? And now I have to build intimacy. That's scary. That is scary. Okay. A robot telling you something that isn't true does not have to be scary, because, like, at least at the time of this recording, and I'm going to assume if you're listening, okay, but the robots have not taken over right now. Okay. We all have autonomy. We have the ability to not listen to what it is telling us. And although there is risk for this in society and culture, in particular, if children are exposed to these tools early on at a young age, like AI, ChatGPT is not your God. It is simply a tool that is out there that can be useful and helpful. And I really want you to hear me say this. You are worthy of support. You are worthy of feeling seen and heard, and not everything has to be hard. Again, I think that is what healing is about. Healing is not learning how to tolerate the BS that you've already been through. It's not about tolerating more like pressure and work. We go to therapy, we go to healing containers and spaces to learn how to build capacity for joy and life outside of suffering. Because at this point, you've already been creating the suffering, right? Otherwise, like you wouldn't be doing the work. Okay. So first off, let's just like name the fear for what it is. And let's put her in a nice little box. She goes over here. Okay. Go feel your feelings about that. Like, it's not true. No true. Now, let's really unpackage how this idea that like AI is not here to replace intimacy and how it's actually enhancing it when it is used appropriately. Okay. So I want to be very clear about this. Your nervous system is designed to interpret threat and stimuli for the purpose of keeping you safe. Without really getting into like the anatomy of all of this, because a lot of people are not super interested in that. I think it's very cool. But like your body and your mind and everything in between, right? The nervous system in this case is not designed to give you 100% truth grounded in like facts and reality and all of those things. Your nervous system has been designed in an environment that develops in childhood and even in utero, right? And it learns how to keep you in connection. It learns how to keep you safe. That is its job. Therefore, when you are triggered, yeah, I mean, think about like if you're driving a car, right? If you're driving a car, if you've ever had that moment where like you swerve and you're like, oh, like I didn't even see that car coming, but I moved, right? Your nervous system was aware and it responded before you consciously were aware of what was happening, but it did that to keep you safe so that car didn't hit you. Okay. Well, your nervous system does not have the discernment and the ability to say, oh, you know what? I'm feeling really triggered in this relationship with this human being who is incredibly important to me, but like there's a difference between that and like a bear coming after me, right? A threat is a threat. And it's very easy for your partner to become the enemy, even if they're not, if the threat feels big and scary and overwhelming and the nervous system is not used to riding the wave, right? Again, we are built to be in connection with other human beings. So if as a child, you were in an environment, in a scenario where you were severed from connection, right? If mom like literally just stopped responding to you or dad just didn't give you the time of day, unless you were doing really well or making a goal or you weren't having any feelings, then what your body has learned is we need to put those feelings in a box because otherwise it's a threat, right? It's going to cause me to lose connection with this person who's keeping me alive. So it is very important to understand how was your nervous system developed? What stimuli does it respond to? How does it respond to that, right? What is actually going on here? AI is simply going to lend a skill in giving your nervous system a moment of distance. And it is going to feel safer because it takes away the initial stimuli of your partner so that you can take a beat and you can say, what is actually happening here, right? I once worked with a couple. I've worked with a lot of couples actually where I've done this. And they were just very explosive, right? They were big emotions. There's so many reasons for that ongoing. And one of the interventions that we would use is we would quite literally go to different offices, different spaces within the same building, and everyone would take a breather. And you would take like your therapist with you, right? There were literally 3 therapists or sometimes 4 therapists. Like there was a team really supporting this couple through this process. And I've actually walked through this exact process like several times, but everyone kind of went to their corners when things would start to get too dysregulated. We would take a moment, calm down, write on paper what's coming up for you. What do you need? What is it that you actually want to say? And then we would come back together and we would continue the session, right? And we just did this over and over and over again. And over time, they built capacity to be able to have challenging conversations together in the same space because their nervous systems learned I am safe. I can walk through this and still be intact, still be okay, right? This takes time. This takes regulation. This is really what I am saying AI can offer and provide. I'm not saying it is a therapist, but I am saying it can be a tool, right? That it can make a little bit of space in a moment of reactivity, and that out of clarity can come connection. Out of regulation can come connection, like true connection. Right. So, a few signs that it might be time to kind of like take a breather, go take a step out is, like one is all or nothing thinking. So we get really extreme. This is the way it has to be. Our feelings get really, really big and they start to overwhelm the other person. And, or you just feel the urge to fight or flight or fawn, right? Or we just get very, very still. We go into fix it mode. All of these are signals from your system that like, hey, it's time for a breather. I am leaving my window of tolerance. So I want to insert here a plug and something that I want to offer y'all, right? Because at some point I will record commercials and today is not that day. But I want to insert this idea or this freebie that I'm going to offer in the show notes. So Dr. Brittany AI is here. And honestly, I created Dr. Brittany AI as a free tool for my clients, and they've been using it for the last few months. And it is a LLM, so it's a long language model. It's a ChatGPT. And what's really cool is you can download it and it will literally show up in your ChatGPT app. And it has been trained on my frameworks, my language, the nervous system work, and my positioning on relationship strategies to support you in your work and in your journey. And I'm really excited to get to offer this with my audience here on the podcast for free. So it's really important to understand, and like she will tell you this as well. This is not therapy. This is not medical advice. This is not ever going to diagnose or replace a clinician. What this is it's a bridge for the in-between, okay? This is a support between the spirals, and it's a grounding tool for the moment that you actually start to feel yourself regress. So a lot of my clients will use it when they're thinking through an argument that they're in the middle of with their client or with their partner, or if there's a pattern of we really cannot break through, like we're just not seeing eye to eye on this one specific topic. It could be money, it could be outsourcing, it could be issues with the kids. And so they go and they talk to Dr. Brittany AI, and she will give them some perspective. She will give them some tools. She's very tactical. She's very tactical because I am very tactical. And I'm thrilled to offer you this tool completely free. And that link is down in the show notes. So if you decide to download her, I am very invested in hearing feedback, what's working, what's not working, as she is ongoing being developed. But that is a gift and a plug there for you. One day I will record commercials and insert them, and today is not that day. So now I want to transition into talking about how to actually train your ChatGPT or Dr. Brittany AI on your relationships. Now, this is something you can copy and paste into most any long language model. I train therapists on how to train like ChatGPT on their business. You can do this on the business end, but you can also do this on your relationships. Okay. Now, again, keep in mind, you need discernment. You need critical thought. This cannot function as God. This does not function as therapist, but it can be very, very helpful as an in-between. Okay. So the first step is you need to tell the AI who you are. So here we're talking childhood history. You don't have to go in depth, but you want to give high level pain points and things that have happened. You want to give attachment tendencies. Do you tend to be very anxiously attached and really move toward people? Do you tend to seek distance? Tell it what are some of the things that cause stress and triggers for you in relationship or even just in general in life. And then how do you tend to shut down or escalate behaviorally? What is happening here? And like, what does this look like? What is causing it, right? I also want you, and this is a really good time to pull out a journal with like a pen and paper if you didn't already pull that out, FYI. But it's also really important to tell it what it is you want. So I want you to challenge me. I don't just want you to comfort me. I want you to give me tactical takeaways. I want you to give me perspective. I want you to help me regulate my nervous system. I want you to give me maybe like some clarity around my partner and what they're going through, right? Give me a breakdown the way that a therapist would and just see what it spits out. You can also ask it to move from certain models because, again, ChatGPT is learning from the information that's on the internet. And thanks to the necessity of marketing and all of these different things, we are seeing that there's a lot of information that it's able to learn from. Okay. So the next thing that I want you to train it on is your relationship dynamics. So I want you to give it your relationship goals, give it your general like dating history, but like what is it that you want out of this conversation? What is it that is important to you in this relationship? What are your partner's patterns? Insert this really quick. It's really important to remember and keep in mind that ChatGPT only has access to what you are telling it. So it's going to see you through your lens and it's going to see your partner through your lens. So again, critical thought, discernment, all like this is not perfect. This is just a tool that I have seen be successful for my clientele over the last year. So you're going to give it your partner's patterns in terms of stress and behaviors and what kinds of things does it do, that person do? What are the reoccurring arguments that are happening and the patterns? So is it that we come to conversation, I start to escalate and then my partner shuts down, or perhaps it's vice versa? And then emotional sticking points. What are things that it just seems like no matter how many times we have this conversation, we're just really struggling to like figure out how to move forward, right? And the other thing you can do with all of this is you can say, ask me any questions you need to give me a thorough profile or explanation of like what's going on, right? This is going to really build a map. Now, I want you to give it your current pattern. So something that is happening. So here's what has happened. Here's how I'm feeling. Here's what I said. And like give me, and you can tell it. So usually I see this being used in moments of stress. Can you help me understand what's happening for me? Can you help me understand what's happening for this other person? Can you help me understand what I should do to regulate? Can you help me understand what little within me is possibly getting addressed? How can I do some inner child work to really help me ground? The other thing I see people doing is that has been really successful right now is that they are talking to it about their relationships with their children and just like patterns they're seeing in their family. And then they're asking for more in-depth based sort of like, help me understand my child a little bit better. And so sometimes this sounds like, give me a Jungian. So Jungian. Jung was a psychologist. He has a lot of depth psychology. It's fascinating stuff. It's not for everyone, but it's very interesting. If you're into like the masculine and the feminine and the unconscious, like that is something I would encourage you to train your ChatGPT on, and not even train, but just say, I would love a Jungian perspective, right? But you can get information on like what your children are moving through. So if you're unsure about, am I holding them to like a developmentally appropriate punishment goal, whatever it is, like you can literally ask it and say, please apply developmental psychology to this. Help me understand what's going on for my kid and what they're capable of, like whatever. And then you can do this in your relationship as well. So the next step though, that I want you to be very specific here is you want to really tell it what you want. This is key with any AI, whether you're using it in business, whether you're using relationships or your family or like building something out. Like you have to treat it like an assistant and you have to tell it what it is that you want. So you want it to function as a co-regulator, not a vending machine just spitting something out. So some prompts might be, I want you to reflect what's happening inside of me. I want you to identify the message that I'm actually trying to send. And then again, you have to use your own discernment to decide, is this true or is this not true for me? Right? Or how would I tweak this? You can say, show me where my communication is breaking down or might break down. Offer me 3 ways to express this clearly without triggering defensiveness, or give me a repair strategy that I can use today. You are giving it a role, you're giving it perspective, and it will rise to that, right? And Here's the reason why this works, because again, it's creating a little bit of distance without totally disengaging from the issue at hand. One of the biggest reasons we see ongoing conflict over and over and over are just like these chronic patterns of stress and communication breakdown is we say, oh my gosh, I can't do this right now, especially for a high performer. I've got a million things to do. I got to walk into a meeting. I don't have time for this right now. And then we don't come back to it. Right? We don't come back and reassess, hey, here's what I meant, here's what I said. So we never really move through. AI helps us to hold some of the tension, build in the regulation, but still also allow us to like come back to it when it feels doable, when it feels okay. It's also offering some outsider perspective that's going to feel a lot less threatening than if it's coming from your partner in that moment, because your nervous system is not registering it as a threat, right? So 3 signs that it is time to reach for AI that I kind of just want on y'all's radar is 1, you're feeling triggered and you're starting to feel urgency. I have to fix this right now. That could be a sign that it's time to pause, go reach for your little friend Gigi and go take a walk, get your feet on some ground. Then come back and reassess, okay? And again, the more you do all of this, the more you're going to build this muscle, the more you're going to not need that additional support at some point, right? So another one might be that you're feeling misunderstood or you're starting to feel really invisible. This gives you a space to be able to say, like, he's not listening. He doesn't care. He doesn't get it, right? Because this is your limbic system is activated. It's online. And AI, again, can help provide some perspective when you're feeling very vulnerable and very little. So the next is that you feel the urge to over-explain or shut down. All of these are just nervous system responses and indications that something is happening in your limbic system that says, like we are on alert and we are no longer in our frontal lobe. We don't have access to it. We don't have access to the critical regulated thought. So the big extremes that I see here are moving from the rescue reflex to overfunctioning, or seeing a freeze response that looks a lot like emotional withdrawal and shut down. Okay, AI is going to help to hold that space, hold the tension, and fill the gap. Okay. Now, what it's giving you real time, what is actually happening here is it's giving your nervous system some understanding of what's going on. I want you to think about the toddler or the little kid who's having a meltdown. And instead of saying, stop it, stop it, stop it, right? Which is like what we move toward initially. I'm thinking about like my daughter having a meltdown the other day in a Target. It was very inconvenient for me. And she just sat down on the ground. She was devastated. She didn't get the dress that she really wanted. And I was going to hold that boundary. And she sat down on the ground and she was just so sad. And she started to shut down, right? Like just get very, very quiet. And so I sat down and then eventually laid on the ground next to her. And there was no one around. I made sure we were safe, all the things. And I just kind of like waited. And I eventually, when she was ready, I said, this is really disappointing. I also get really, really sad when I don't get something that I want. Like, this is hard. And I said it just like that. And I just kind of laid there. And then she started crying. And then she asked for a hug. Does not always happen that well. Okay. But what happened was that her nervous system responded to feeling seen, to feeling safe, to feeling understood. This is a little bit of what AI can help to provide real time, right? When we can't offer this or there's no one else who is available to offer this real time. It can also offer communication clarity and some strategy. So what is it that I'm actually trying to say? If we are in our limbic system, the survival part of our brain, then we have a really hard time accessing this clear communication part. And therefore, we're not going to bring our best, most strategic selves to the table. But the reality is that one of the goals for your relationship is probably to stay together and to work through hard things together. So we really do want to put our best foot forward whenever it comes to challenging and messy conversations. Don't hear me say perfect. I'm not saying it should be perfect. I'm not saying it's going to be even great. But if we're stuck in these extremes, then it can provide some support there. It's also going to be able to help you find a way forward when you're feeling very little. Oftentimes we can jump to, I just don't know where we go from here, right? But AI typically can provide some ideas of like, well, maybe you can go take a walk and actually not talk to each other. Maybe you can go sit at the dinner table together, but you're not making eye contact just yet. Or maybe you literally go and say that I don't know where we go from here, right? It's going to give tactical advice if you ask it for that on how to actually repair. The other thing is it's going to start to pick up on pattern recognition. So have I done this before? Is this repeating? And for my audience, for my listeners, they love them a good pattern. Give them some homework. They're going to get it done. Okay. So especially if you ask it, are there any patterns that I am unaware of that you're noticing? It's going to give you that. And then you can say, what is some homework that I should be doing to address this or whatever it is, right? AI is great for that. Now, it doesn't have nuance. It doesn't have the ability to always push on that appropriately. So again, it's not a replacement for a clinician, but can be very helpful. And then I do think it's great for regulation strategies, especially, if I'm doing nervous system regulation, I'm telling it, give me some somatic experiencing regulation-based strategies. Like, well, let me just tell you, an SEP, like they know what they're doing when it comes to nervous system work. So I want to share with you, here are some of the outcomes that I am seeing from couples and from my clients. This is what I'm hearing real time, especially in 2025, in terms of implementing AI strategically, specifically, and not losing discernment, critical thought, whatever, right? The biggest two that I am seeing right now is that this is leading to faster resolution from reoccurring arguments. This is huge for clients. This is also where I'm just like, I think this is a gift that if you are not using it and use it appropriately, don't be a fool, right? Like, I'm not saying go jump off the deep end or end up with like AI psychosis, but like I am saying, go learn how to hone this freaking tool and get out of these same cycles over and over and over again. But I am seeing with my clients, particularly the ones who are using Dr. Brittany AI, they are seeing faster resolution of these reoccurring arguments. They are also seeing less resentment because it's getting named sooner. Part of the issue, especially with high-performing women in their relationships, is that they are the financial and emotional providers for their family. They are everything, and a lot of times they don't even realize it. Half of the time with the women in the audience that I work with, when they're able to give it a voice, but then also, here are some ways we can work on this, here are some ideas I have, half the time, it might be dysregulating at first. I'm not saying it's like a walk in the park in terms of conversation or like the most pleasant conversations they've ever had in their relationship, but half of the time, everything settles very quickly. We're able to strategically reallocate, where do we want our resources to sit? Where do we need more support? Where do we need to bulk up our support system? We're able to truly tackle this issue together versus getting stuck in this ongoing pattern, right? So I hope that this episode was helpful. I hope that you took notes. You may have to go back and re-listen. And I sincerely hope that this is a support in this sort of like no man's land where I'm seeing everyone just take sides, right? In terms of like AI is good or AI is bad. I think AI is phenomenal if you don't lose your brain in the process. And if you are developmentally and appropriately primed for what you are doing and how to use it, it can be fantastic. You can even automate it, right? You can make a little like employee that sends you a reminder to build in date nights. All that, just truly, there's so much that can be there. I have my home it's not like Robot House from like Disney, okay, whatever. But like I've built out SOPs with this thing and they're janky, whatever. It took work, will continue to take work, but it's a phenomenal support if you know how to use it. So I hope this episode was helpful and I will see you on the next one. Alrighty, friend, that is all for today's episode of the Aligned Powerhouse podcast. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And do me a favor, if this episode resonated, I want you to share it with another powerhouse woman in your life who is ready to lead and love from a place of self-trust. And don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review. It really does help more women find this work. New episodes drop every week. Until then, lead with self-trust and let yourself be seen.